just a small town girl that moved here. So yeah, I volunteer here, but I'm not representing any organization. I just reached out to a number of people trying to pull meetings together.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's the hat you're in.
That's how I'm in, and every time I call someone, they're like, well, who are you? Who are you with? And so my son created this beautiful poster. He went above and beyond. That's who I am.
That's very sweet. That's very sweet. That's so sweet. You can see the bio.
That's cool though. Is that a lizard? It is. It's a Gila monster. Everybody loves a Gila monster.
We're late.
I know we're late.
We're not even. No, we're not late
Welcome,
anymore.
welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
Rich, how are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
Hi, it's nice to see you, Wendy.
You're Wendy?
Yes. Yes.
And thank you for leaving that.
Of course, of course. And we're just asking you to put in your name, organization, and contact information. But we do have a poster going around also, Sandy, to put down your organization and different things that you offer so that we can do an updated flyer for the community.
So we need another strength.
No, you're fine.
Whereabouts? Oh, you know.
I was inland from Kalihi, near Kalalemi. I don't know how familiar you are with any of
Hello, Mayor. Sorry.
Okay, so I was northwest of Mombasa. Kalalemi. So Kalalemi was the end of the tarmac, and then I was another 5 kilometers down the road to my school, and my house was another 20-minute walk into the river. Come around. So nice. What did you do in Mombasa?
I didn't get this the other day.
I work for the Foot Jesus
No.
Museum.
Oh yeah, it was kind of like weird because they were like, people were in front of us, like
Yeah, I
put it in the
took
table,
my
but
students into the British Council Library,
So?
and we ended up,
so
because they were so excited to ride an elevator,
Totally understand.
and they just wanted to keep going up and down, and I was like, okay, we can do it. Same thing, same thing, yeah.
Well, I mean, I created it, so yeah, I guess so. I just think we don't have like me and you necessarily, but I just think that I have a good material. Help.
No, and I respect your.
Yeah, 4 people.
There's a poster, you can put some ideas down if you want. Go ahead, this is. Yeah, hi, I'm Wendy. You wanna see here? Nice to meet you, Glenn. I have, again, you can look at your organization.
Well, and I think we have.
Okay. So if you have any ideas, Glenn, for shelter ideas, as well as resources that you don't think everyone's familiar with, we have lots of Post-its that you can put things
So
up.
many things we
Okay?
can do, right?
Yeah, I know.
But I know I should.
What's happening in it, right?
Awesome.
I think sometimes, here's Post-its. We have to strengthen.
We're gonna go ahead and get started because I wanna be mindful of everybody's time. Because I know all your time is important and I don't wanna step on anybody's toes with time. I don't like being stepped on my toes with time. My time is important and valuable, so I wanna respect your time. Make it valuable as well. So we're just gonna start with the word of prayer, cause that's what we do here. This is the old house of prayer, and guess what? It's still the house of prayer. That's right. You know, so we're gonna just start with that. And we're just hosting, we don't have any thing that we're pushing as far as Runner's Refuge. We're just hosting this, trying to get this community together, which is another reason why you're here. Thank you all for being here, Mayor, especially, I know you're busy. Thank you for being here. I know that, we need some, community leaders that are gonna round and help us with this action that we're trying to do, so thank you for that. Just wanna say that. Let's just pray. Father, we just come before you, Lord, and we just first and foremost ask for forgiveness, Father. Anything that we brought in here, Lord, our own agendas, our own things, our own thoughts, our own actions, we don't want any of that, Father. We want you to be present here, Father God. Come and invade this place. It says where two or three are gathered, that you're in their midst, and here we are, Father. We're asking for your words to come out of our mouths, your ideas, your things that we can focus on, Father God, that we can help people in need. That's what your word talks about. It talks about helping people. Love your neighbor as yourself. So here we are. We're just trying to have some good discussion about helping our neighbors. And Lord, let our words be your words, Father God, as we're having these discussions together. And be nice to each other, because this is where we're going to show people out there how we're going to try to be nice to them. So Lord, we thank you for this time. Lord, we thank you for your precious blood of your Son Jesus. And it's in his mighty name that we pray. Amen.
Amen, thank you.
Amen, amen. So yeah, here we are. This is what we're doing. We're just looking at ideas, because there's people on the streets that need to be sheltered. And I think it's a basic human, not just a need, but it's a basic human right that they should be sheltered. Everybody's out there for a reason. We don't know. It could be, I'm one step away. You could be one step away. But we'll just have a healthy discussion about it. So, Wendy, who has helped put this meeting together, actually helped, she did it all. I'm just the guy that decorated the tables and put sugar on the creamer instead of in the creamer. Anyway, long story short, so Wendy, you have the floor.
Okay, thanks.
Come on and speak loud, please, because we have people joining via Google Meet, and we need to be able for them to hear you. And the microphone is way over here. So if you could speak loudly, or you want to get up and speak, that's fine too.
Okay, as Pastor Rich said, being cognizant of everyone's time, we are going to try to stick to the agenda, with each person having three minutes. I know there's people here that are not on the agenda. There are people online that are on the agenda. We do have our last people online are from our State Department, and that is Rosalind Villegas, and she's with the Department of Finance and Administration for New Mexico, as well as Taylor Cook, the Director of Homeless Initiative for New Mexico. So they will be the last on our agenda. Just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. If you need to use the facilities, they're through this door and first door on your left. If anyone here needs to do that, those people that are here, we do have coffee, tea, snacks, the Post-its that are on the table. If you want to add to any of the posters here for shelter ideas, as well as Alamogordo resources that you think people may not be aware of. The poster that is going around is in hopes to update a flyer for our community. And also, if you haven't already, if you could please silence your phones, just out of respect for everyone. Okay. So I wanted to organize a meeting. My husband and I came here. Pardon me?
Remember that it's being recorded.
Oh, and this is also being recorded. Okay, thank you. And Daniel is going to be, this is my son Daniel, he's going to be in charge of the timer. So my 3 minutes are starting. My husband and I moved here in October, and to help take care of my in-laws. And moving here, I went around to different agencies to see where I could volunteer and what was happening, and found out there are so many wonderful things happening in this community. But I also discovered that we really don't have a shelter, and that was concerning to me. And looking at the Alamogordo website, it says that our city has a commitment, and this is a quote, a commitment to excellence, compassion, fairness, honesty, and integrity. The city's goal is to provide the best possible service to its citizens. And our friends on the street are part of our citizens here in our community. It's my hope that together we can come up with a way to assist them in having a shelter, having a safe place to lie their head, where they're warm, where their basic needs are met, their hygiene needs are met, this community is wonderful in meeting the food needs, but they're still out there too. But a safe place where someone can have their hygiene needs met, they can know that they're safe for the night, with the hopes then the next step, they are starting to become contributing citizens to our community. I know in touring the places in Las Cruces, I know in talking with friends that work with Unsheltered in Chicago and in Florida and in Arizona, this is not going to be an easy task. However, we got God behind us. And it's just, I've always been a person that I'm not one of those people that say, if I could have, if I should have, if I would have. I think we should build a shelter here in Alamogordo, or use one of the buildings that is available. I think we can do it, and I think we will do it. I know I was taught a very good lesson about 10 years ago by a teenager. I always carry food in my car, and I was giving out food to someone that was on the street, and the teenager asked me, well, why don't you give them a couple dollars, Mrs. Urquidez? And I said, well, you know, if I give them a couple dollars, they might spend it on alcohol or cigarettes. And they said, don't you buy a candy bar once in a while? Don't you go buy like a fancy drink or something once in a while and it makes you feel good? Don't you think that that person on the corner needs to feel good sometimes? And that cigarette, that alcohol might make them feel good for a moment. And who are we to judge?
Time. That.
So Rich, you're up.
3 minutes is not enough, I'll make it fast. So, what we do as an organization is we're a parachurch organization. Basically, we rely on other churches to help us so that we can minister to people on the streets in the areas that we're in. And Alamogordo is one of the areas that we've been in since 2017. So what we do as an organization is we fill the gaps. One of the things that we did for a year is we actually sheltered people for a year in 2023. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of volunteers. It takes a lot of mental health. It takes a lot of everything. We don't have the resources, so we didn't do that in 2024. We went back to our basics, which was just feeding people. However, still passionate about helping people because we did, and we're able to get 8 people off the streets, and they're still maintaining that. And that's the other thing is we can't just give them a shelter, but we need to give them a building block. We need to give them a temporary place so that they can build to the next place, and we need to help them with that as well. So I agree. We need a shelter. We need a place that they can be safe. We need a place where they can lay their head, be secure. At least, even if we charged them a little bit, $10 a night instead of $75 a night for a hotel, to have a camping spot or a place to be in a tiny home, something like that, a room, still, so it can maintain itself, so we can pay somebody that can come in and clean it and do the toilets and make it, monitor that kind of stuff. I have a lot of ideas that are up on the board. We'll talk about those forever. But my main purpose is, and I heard this through watching a YouTube video. You learn a lot by watching YouTube videos. Is the lady was talking about forming a 501c3, and she says, well, what's your purpose? I said, well, my purpose is I want to do da-da-da-da-da. And she goes, well, one of the things that she talked about specifically, she says because she was working on homelessness and those kind of things, she says you need to work yourself out of a job. If that's not our main focus and our main goal, then we're just spinning in circles. Right, we're just chasing our tail, so to speak. So we need to be working towards working ourselves out of a job. How do we do that? It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of money. It's going to take a lot of people. Can we do it? Absolutely. Do we need government money? No. I would charge the churches to get involved because the Bible talks about taking care of the widows and the orphans. We have a policy in our town that we're a sanctuary city for the unborn. There's people out there that are already born. Why aren't we a sanctuary for them? That's the kind of stuff that we need to get going. And we don't need to be fighting about it, bickering about it. We just need to notice that that person is a soul. That person is somebody that God sent here that is going to have an eternal place. And whether we reach them for the gospel or not, there's certain needs that need to be met. They're still a person. That's where we come from. We don't ask questions. People can walk in these doors drunk, high, fighting, doing whatever they're doing, but this is a place of refuge, and I think that's what we need to create as well, with some kind of shelter as a place of refuge. Does it need to be called Runner's Refuge? Absolutely not. I don't even really wanna be on the board. I'm
Time.
just having this because we still have this passion to be able to do this for people,
Time.
so that we can get something going. That's where I'm coming from. Thank you. For keeping it short. Yes.
Okay, Pastor Jerry Martinez.
Well, like Pastor Reach said, we're all God's children. And those that don't have, the haves should have the time and the energy to help. Just as Yeshua, Jesus, when he was here on earth, he didn't go to the rich, he went to the poor, to the humble, to the ones who needed food, and needed all kinds of help. I've helped a lot of people here that are homeless. I have set up with different of the hotels here. They give me a special price, and they call me, and I just call them and put it on the ministry's account. But I'm evangelical. I don't have a congregation or anything. It's hard. It's hard, like Pastor Rick says, to get the money. There's no resources out there. We don't need the money from the government. We can do it through our own community entities, business-wise, or charitable causes from churches, whatever. But we need to get something set up for the people. I just heard that there was two people, one person died from being out in the cold in Mescalero. And it's all over. It's here, and it's over in Mescalero as well. So I'm trying to get involved to help them down there set up shelters, and there's a church that's working to open up their house, the church, to those who need refuge. And so I'm glad, thank you, Wendy, for bringing this up, and I'm glad that the governor knew who you were and knew about what you did, because we need that here. And if we can all get together as citizens with the love of our God, I don't care what God you, as long as it's a God of love, get something done for the people that need it. Because there's nothing being done for them. There's organizations, yes, they give food, they give hygienic things, but we still have a lot of people out there who are in the cold, and we need to find shelter for some of these people and help them, just as Jesus told us to do in the Bible. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was only 2 minutes.
I don't know if Pastor Lupe or Chad joined us online from Grace Methodist. I did call and remind them yesterday.
I don't want to butcher names.
Okay,
They're right here.
so no Chad.
No.
Any representatives from Grace Methodist online?
Nope, I don't
That's
see
an
anybody
A.
on there.
Okay. All right. And Dusty, are you online with us?
He's not there. Donald's not there.
This is-
Edward's
you
not
can-
there.
Okay.
You got new glasses? Can you read them?
Mr. Huffman, are you ready to speak? Is he there?
No.
He's not there either?
I'm gonna butcher names. Ashley,
Okay. What about
Jonah,
Joanne.
Joanne.
Pastor Edward from Gateway Baptist?
Not on here.
No. Okay. Joanne is on there. So Joanne, if you would like to unmute yourself, we would love to hear what you have to say, and just keep in mind that we do have the 3-minute limit. So this is Joanne with WULAC.
Okay, in November, I think it was in November, can you hear me?
Yes.
That too
Okay,
loud?
louder?
No, I'm asking them because I'm messing with the speaker.
We're good.
Okay, tell me when I can start.
Good.
Okay, in November, Fred Quinteras, a member, a citizen or resident of Tularosa, he held 2 meetings at the Runner's Refuge to bring attention to the plight of the homeless and how it's getting cold. So I called him after being alerted to this from the collaborative, and I asked him what if he had volunteers. He said yes. So I said, well, I will join you. I will talk to our LULAC board and I will join you. And so we did. And I said, but I'm tired of talking. So what happened is we started raising money. We were able to raise over 3,000, probably close to $3,400, or close to 35, sorry. Anyway, we decided we could do this as an emergency winter fund. We would put people up in hotels and try to work with anybody that wanted to work with us. So anyway, make a long story short, all of the people that said that would volunteer did not. So just recently, we've been able to collaborate with the counseling center with Nadia Sykes. But this problem is, this is too big for 501c3s, 501c4s, churches. This has to be a collaborative with government. We cannot raise enough money to build a shelter and maintain it. We can't build enough little tiny homes to maintain it. And plus, the people are not ready for taking care of a home, paying rent on a home. They're not even there. There are 3 different types of people: some who don't want to live in a housing, those mentally ill, and then those who can't afford. Right now, we have 3 families that need housing. One is an 80-year-old veteran. He was pretty much lied to by an apartment complex here in Tularosa. He got evicted because he gave notice like a responsible person should, and then got kicked out December 28th. Paid all the money he had to get in a hotel. Then we got involved in January 15th, more or less. The veterans finally answered the phone and paid the rest of it to today. They have to go further because the apartment complex again lied to him because they were supposed to be ready today. We cannot find housing for the other 2 people. They have full-time jobs. And so this is bigger than us. We can't do it. We cannot get enough grants. It's going to take millions. This is not a job for churches and organizations. This is a job for capital outlay, and the only people that can do this is the city of Alamogordo, the city of Tularosa, the Mescalero Apache Tribe Sovereign Nation, and the County Commission of Otero County.
I'm sorry,
I'm
that's
tired.
time.
Thank you, Joanne. And I think Pastor Lupe and Chatter here, you were on the agenda earlier, if you'd like to speak.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, sorry we're late. We
No.
just got done with staff meeting.
No
I moved
problem.
it up earlier.
What is your name?
My name is Lupe Acevedo. So, yeah, Wendy was so kind enough to invite us, and kind of when she shared what was happening, I was like, oh, this is kind of great. I've only been here since August, but I consider myself someone who's pretty observant, and knowing that there was a lot of missing services here in Alamogordo, and part of it is one thing I noticed, we're really good at giving food out, and I think that's great. But I've kind of been trying to get our congregation to, hey, is maybe there another way we can actually help people out where they actually need it? We can continue feeding, but where is the actual issue? And I think sometimes we don't have the full context to know exactly how to help. And the only way to do that is to actually talk with people and make a relationship with them. And I think to do that, you have to be willing to do that. And I agree, with what Joanne was saying. There's a lot of things. It can't really fall on the organization. I think you have to have the right people with the right heart to do some of these things. And I think it's going to require all of us on the same page, because too often we're all trying to do the same thing, and there's a lot of things that are falling through the cracks. And coming in, you know, I really had no idea what services were available. I've been here for 6 months. Wendy shared with me, oh, hey, did you know this? I was like, I didn't know that. Where can I find that? Where's it being advertised? How is it being communicated? And making sure that, you know, we're working together. I think we're all on the same team, more than we realize it or not. And so, you know, I'm just here to say, hey, we want to help. We want to listen. And so, yeah, just let us know how we can be a part. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. And Pastor, if you haven't already, if you fill in the poster in front of Mrs. Payne, we're trying to put together a flyer so that everyone knows what's available in our community. And if you know that someone's not here, an organization, and you know what they do, please fill that in also. Thank you, Pastor. Heather?
Okay.
Next.
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, sorry I'm late. My name's Heather Flodine, and I just wanted to introduce myself, and I wanted to put it out there that I'm available to volunteer for whatever organization needs me. I want to be helpful and put forward my labor where it's most effective, so I just wanted to let people know that I'm available to volunteer, and I'm really interested in getting some temporary housing available for people in this community. So that's what I'm most interested in, but people can ask me for my name and number, and I will be available for, you know, labor.
We'll put you to work.
Yes.
Thank you, Heather.
Yes. Yeah.
Is Ted here from Foxhole Homes? No? Nadia?
I would like to wait till later to tell you what 100% Ontario has.
Okay.
And just really briefly, one thing I hear, and I hear it so frequently, as does Mayor Payne, is that there are no resources. We have for years published a resource guide with probably 300 resources in it. We publish a food guide, we publish a rental guide, and if anybody would hop onto the 100% Ontario webpage, you would have access to all of that. So I would just prefer to wait till everybody's spoken.
Okay, with that in mind, keep in mind that we are going to let the representatives from the governor's office speak last. Thank you.
That's what we should.
Okay, is Evan here? All
Hi,
right.
thank you for putting this together and inviting me, and
Of course.
thank you guys for hosting as well. Really appreciate it. So one of the things I hear a lot and I get asked a lot when it comes to this question is like Pastor Lupe was saying, like, what is the context that we're working in? What is the context? Not just the symptom, right? Like what is the source of these struggles, right? And what I'm really proud of as a community is we have all these organizations and representatives coming together to address that. And we all work in different areas within our community, right? Some people do like temporary housing, some people do work programs, everything from like park cleanups to outreach activities. I mean, you name it. And what we're all working around here is material conditions of our community, right? We're experiencing an incredibly difficult time in our economic state here in the United States. When we're talking about homelessness, we're also going to be talking about the cost of living, being able to afford that based on work, right? Most folks that I know that are, 20 to 40 or so, they're closer to homelessness than they are owning a home here. And that's because of the rental market being, and the housing market in general is being predatory. There's no limit on what somebody can poach real estate for when it's a speculative interest, not something that's made to meet someone's needs. Okay, so when we're looking at homelessness, we got to look at the way that our community puts together its economic plans, our capital outlay projects, what we're looking at doing, who we're looking at helping, right? Because if we continue to, as we have recently at the federal level, give tax breaks to the rich while increasing taxes on the poorest of us, not addressing housing crisis, not addressing food insecurity, not addressing non-livable wages, we're just going to see more of this. And so, and thank you so much for showing up today. Really appreciate you being here. It's good. This is one of the few people in the room that right now has the ability to directly take action on this, right? There's things that municipalities can do. There's things that municipalities shouldn't do or should do. We've seen a bunch of examples all over the United States, but what we need to do is what we're doing right now and come together, see how we all fit in together, and get something done, collaborate. And again, my name is Evan. I'm with Community Power New Mexico. It's a 501c3 not-for-profit organization here, and we do stuff all over the place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to the rest of this.
Can you just briefly tell us what Community Power New Mexico does? Because I don't think everyone in the room knows.
Oh yeah, sorry. More focused on what we're here for.
That's fine.
But
that's
no,
fine.
you're right. So Community Power New Mexico, we do all sorts of stuff. We have outreach programs with youth. We help out with disabled folks. We take the trash out for senior citizens. We've installed ADA access for disabled folks, which we have twice the rate of disability here as per the national level, as well as twice the rate of poverty. So that makes for a lot of handrails and bathroom rails as well. But we do that. We also work with the youth and specifically at-risk youth, teaching them trades in collaboration with the counseling center. I mean, I could go on. We've adopted several different areas within the city through the Adopt a Spot program. We also, we just help. Most people help now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a representative online or here for Community Connections? No? Okay. Is Mrs. McDonald online for District 5? No? Susan Payne with Love Inc., would you like to speak?
Yes, I will. I'm gonna speak on Love Inc. and then I'm gonna take just a minute. I don't really wanna talk about the city too much. We are having a discussion about it tonight, but I am gonna take just a minute to do that as well.
Okay.
And seeing how most of these people didn't show up, we should have a little bit of time to do that, so.
Yes, thank you.
So I am the executive director of Love Inc. of Otero County. The Inc., it's actually capital I, capital N, capital C. It's Love in the Name of Christ.
Okay,
Of
thank you.
Otero County. Yeah, the Inc. is in the name of Christ.
Got it.
We have been here since 2009, so we're starting our 16th or 17th year, something like that. We, like a lot of you, we don't get any government funding. Our bylaws will not allow it, so we get zero government funding. Everything that we get is through very daunting fundraising efforts, and about 45% from the churches, probably I would say 30% community, and the rest of it is fundraising. And so we have a big fundraiser actually coming up. But what we do is our purpose is to build relationships with people, and that's what we do. So I thought it was interesting that you mentioned that, because that's exactly what we do. We believe that the best way to help people is to get to know them and build a relationship with them. But we do that in many different ways. We have our practical needs. We have food, we have children's clothing, we have household and furniture, we have medical equipment, we have what else do we have? Hygiene kits. We have all the practical stuff that you need. We do, we also are the administrator for PNM's Good Neighbor Fund. We don't deal with money, we deal with applications, but we can pay, right now it's up to $120. I think they're gonna bump that up to $170 on an electric bill. We work with all the agencies. I work very closely with victim advocates from the district attorney's office to work with victims. I work really closely with COPE. COPE, I'm very passionate about domestic violence shelter. So we work, and I really believe in what they do, so we work very closely with them. We help people get, driver's licenses and birth certificates and other documents that they may need to get into housing. And then our foundation, what I like to call our foundation, is our community, we call them community transformation classes, where we teach people to become independent, because we believe that the best way to help people is to teach them to help themselves. And what we have found in our, I'm saying almost 2 decades, I can't believe it's been that long, of doing this, is that we deal a lot with low self-esteem, a lot with hopelessness, a lot with generational poverty. There's a lot of generational poverty. All those things are barriers, but they can be overcome. And what they really need is people that will walk alongside of them and work with them and teach them that they can do more. And so that's what our classes do. Our classes are free. They're on Thursday nights. They're free. We provide free childcare. We provide a meal before the classes. We have a lot of participants that have gone on to do really great things, actually. And if I'm to be honest, sometimes much to my surprise, pleasantly. And so yeah, that's what we do. We are very passionate about what we do. We are staffed.
Time.
Okay.
They're giving her extra time, Dave.
Oh, I thought they were saying
That's
the
okay.
dollar
You
time.
said your Thursday nights at what time?
They're the meal starts at 6. Right now we're on a break. We have a class coming up called Affirming Potential, and it's teaching people that they have potential. It's a 12-week class, but the person that's going to teach it can't start until March, so it will start in March. Our program is a year-long educational program, so it's, I believe Nadia attended one of our classes. We teach a really great class for the community called Redemptive Compassion. It's a really great class. But anyway, yeah, that's what we do. We do a lot of that. But our whole focus is on building relationships with people and teaching them that they can do more. Because we believe they can, because we believe in people. So as far as the city, I'm just gonna take just a minute. We are talking about this tonight. The city is working on a plan. I can tell you right now, it's probably at this juncture not gonna include building a homeless shelter, because our research shows that to do it effectively, it's about $2 million a year to run one. And when I spoke to the director at COPE, because that's pretty much the closest I've come to what a shelter would look like, her budget is $2 million a year. So we don't have, I mean, you know, I know that the governor at the meeting offered to build a shelter, and that's great, but is she gonna offer to sustain the shelter? Cause that's really where we're at with that. And so, you know, and I'm just gonna tell you from the city's perspective really quick, and then I'll hang it up. I do agree, and if I didn't agree, I wouldn't keep, number one, putting myself in these positions, cause they're awkward for me, but number two, I wouldn't keep doing what I'm doing on a personal level, running this ministry. So I do agree that something needs to be done. I see everybody as human. I tell people all the time, nobody gives birth to a child and says, I pray that they grow up to stand on a corner and hold a sign. Nobody does that, right? I mean, I think we can all agree on that. These are human beings, and at the very least, they're somebody's child. And so, so I do agree with that. I think maybe my perspective on how to help's a little different, and that's okay. I mean, I'm hoping that you hold true to your word and that we all have our opinions and we're good with that. So, but what I was gonna say is I don't know that we can, and I've done a lot of research on this, I just don't know at this time. I'm not saying it can't be done, but I'm saying at this time, I don't know that we could sustain a shelter. I know that the last cold spell that we had, which was just a few weeks ago, I was looking, Pastor Anthony said he had 12 people show up. I know that we have, the last pit count the county did, they had 50 people, 57. So I'm a little curious to know where the other 40 are, or 40.
Just, sorry to interrupt.
That's in there.
This is pit week.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there are people out counting people.
Right.
And because of the dedication of the volunteers, the training that they all went through, the fact that it's being headed up by 100% Ontario and Community Connections is really involved, we're probably going to double that number as far as county.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the whole county. So I guess the question is, and I'm not against it. I mean, I do think that the onus has been put on the city, and I don't think that it's necessarily a city issue. I think it's a collaborative issue. But I do question, like, if there was 50-something people and only 12 showed up to a shelter that was providing shelter on a very cold night, where were the rest of them? And I mean, I think it's a valid question. And so, those are some of the things that I would like to explore, because I wanna know, you know, if we're gonna be realistic about it, let's be realistic. There are some people that are out on the street that appear to be homeless, and I know for a fact they're not, because I know who they are. And so, you know, and I'm not gonna blast that anywhere. That's between them and God. I mean, if that's what they wanna do, but I do have to be realistic about it. So from a city perspective, just know that we are working on it. We're gonna talk about it tonight. We have some ideas for the short term. But this is not something we're dismissing. We're taking it seriously. We just have to be realistic. And financially, you can look around our roads and our water and all the things that everybody complains about all the time, and you can see we're trying to work on those too. So, you know, to do that simultaneously, it's a little bit difficult, but
Thank you.
we are working on it.
Thank you, and just to comment, because I physically drove some people over to Mountain View Church, and, you know, they ate, and then they didn't wanna stay, and I had those conversations with them why. And when we leave our homes, we have the privilege of turning a key and locking for our safety, and the people that I spoke to personally that didn't wanna stay, it was because they were afraid their belongings would be gone in the morning. So, because they don't have that security that we have in our homes.
No, and I get that. I have a lady that comes all the time for food, and I'm like, why does she, and I know she's homeless, and I'm like, why does she come to us? And she said it's because she's staying around the corner, and we're the closest spot.
Right.
And I get it, and I happily give her food. She's a nice lady. I've gotten to know her, and hopefully at some point she'll trust me enough we can get her off the street. But so I understand that, but I also know that it's cold, and so I'm trying to figure out
There's a question.
if
Okay.
that's an issue.
Hello, I'd like to ask if out of the 60 people that they did the pit study on, did you include the 50 families that are in McKinney-Vento, which are substandard housing, and the 150 children that go with those families? That's the problem. They
It's separate. It's
Yeah, you
different,
can't
and they
include
do it.
yeah, okay, they're separate. Okay.
You can't
Alright.
include those in that pit count.
Okay, because the two of the families I'm working with are in McKinney-Vento, and they're completely homeless. And so are 10 of the families that are included, and they are completely homeless in the hotel.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and,
Thanks, Joanne.
who's next?
Thank you, Joanne, for that information, and I hope everyone heard that that is a different count and that people are included. We're gonna backtrack to Pastor Dusty. Yes.
What happens if you hit extend call, since it is on a time limit? Will it make it longer?
It should. If not, we can have everyone exit and go to I did a 12 o'clock meeting also, just.
Oh wait, no, that's asking for a subscription. Alright. So if we go over, then we just have to resubmit and invite them all back.
Yes. Did
Alright.
everyone hear that? If I did send an 11 o'clock meeting and a 12 o'clock meeting because Google Meets has changed that it has an hour minute. So if we do go overtime and you're cut off, there is another link for you to join at 12 o'clock. Thank you. Yes.
Guys, I'm just gonna stand up. I'm a collegiate debater by college and scholarship and everything else, so this is just more comfortable for me. So If you can live with that, great. Please don't take it as me trying to be intimidating in any way. My name is Dusty Marshall. I'm the pastor at The Well, which is off of Wright Avenue, which is over towards Walker Avenue. And we minister over there and have a food pantry. I'm also the head of our association for the Mountain Valley Baptist Association, which covers 24 churches in Lincoln and Otero County. And on top of that, I'm also a small business owner, so I've got 3 different jobs that I try to work and make things happen. Wendy's talked to me a little bit. I'm glad she invited me to be here. Let me just give you my background before I kind of give you my opinion, and that's pretty much what you're going to get today from me as this. I grew up in a low-income household, to where we had to decide if we needed propane or if we needed electricity, and that was just life. My mom would sit at the table and cry her eyes out, trying to figure out what bills to pay just so she could feed 3 boys, and I'd often watch her go without food for days. I know what it's like to eat out of a trash can, and I promise you, finding a molded sandwich, if you cut the mold off, it still doesn't taste that bad. But now I have a master's degree in theological studies. I've worked for the Republican Party, and I've worked in politics for quite a long and often time throughout Texas and New Mexico, to realize politics is not where I want to be. Matter of fact, I hope I never have to work in politics again. So, all those things to be said. I'm going to address, hopefully, things you guys have already addressed, but since I came in late, I guess I'll be fashionable about it. I do believe here in Alamogordo, we do need some type of shelter. I do also understand the strains in our city government are trying to make something like that happen. The research is probably accurate too. You're probably looking at somewhere around $2 million to make sure that's going to be sustainable. Not just something to have a building and hoping that people will volunteer and give every amount of their time to be there. It's hard. It's one of the hardest things you have. But I promise you, if you have places like that, you will have kids like me that will have places and people that are willing to invest in your life to where eventually you go, wait, I can graduate high school? Like, for me to put it in clear perspective, I'm the only one in my family, and when I say that, I mean extended, all cousins and everybody else as well, to graduate high school in over a decade. I'm the only one on my dad's side of the family to have a high school diploma in over 50 years. I'm the only one in my family, extended and otherwise, in over 100 years to actually have a college education and also have a master's degree. And the reason why that is because it was people in shelters and ministries like Runner's Refuge that poured into my life and made sure I had food, made sure I had a place to study, made sure I had a place that I felt safe. That's it. I'm a walking example of an entire community, which I grew up in Hobbs, New Mexico, so I know I'm lucky I can read. It's fine, okay? But a walking example of what a community can do when they come together and they don't care about the political differences. They don't care about their religious backgrounds and denominational differences. But they truly come together because they look at an entire community and say, children, families, honestly need this type of help. As a pastor, as I read scripture, what does it mean to actually follow Christ and do ministry and live that life? Well, it says take care of the widows and orphans. Amen. So what am I supposed to do with them? Say, nah? Danny, am I out of time? All right, how much time have I got left?
That was it.
Awesome. Can I get an extra 5?
You can wrap up.
All right, let me get you 2. 20 seconds. So
The people that weren't here.
Let me do this in 20
The
seconds,
time.
real simple and real easy. If the governor's offering to build you a shelter, my opinion is take it. At the very least, you have a building that's built. Yeah, we may not be able to sustain it, but I'm pretty sure we have a lot of churches, organizations, other people also in our own pockets that we can find ways that $2 million may not happen, but 500,000 might, and we might be able to have at least 12 people that we can sustain inside of a shelter on a constant basis. Amen. Where those 50 people are at, I promise you, I'll tell you, they're sitting inside of tents not too far from our church. And they're also sitting in a place saying, I'm not comfortable, I don't trust, and I don't want to lose my stuff. How do I know that? Because I did it. So if you want to know where those people are at, go walk out inside of the mesquite bushes. Far and deep, and you will find them hiding, just trying to stay warm, trying to stay protected. And some of them are so far out that they're not going to come to your shelter, they're not going to come to your ministry, they're not going to come to your organization because it's too far to walk. So we have them there. Why? Because I minister to them. So guys, if we can come together collectively, regardless of our backgrounds, you might have a lot of people in this community that can possibly turn out the way that I did and try to do better for them. We can do it. That's my opinion.
Do it. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you. Did someone from Community Connections come in?
There is something.
Okay, great. Did you want to talk at all?
No.
No?
I just came in today to listen.
Okay, great. Well, we're glad that you're here. Thank you. I think we're off to Rosalind now.
Hey, Wendy,
Yes.
Tanya, where's Landon Saving?
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyone else that's present that would like to speak?
Before the governor's folks talk,
Yes, thank you.
I would like to just say a couple things,
Yes.
just real quick. My name is Nadia Sykes, and I've been in the community for about 20 years, and I pretty much planned getting to this point. Over the 20 years, I worked with capital outlay money to get the Coke shelter built. I've been on that board for 18 years. We've had some recent situations, but we're getting through them. I had the governor appoint me to 2 boards, the Base Planning Commission, because one of the important things in Alamogordo is the fact that we have Holloman Air Force Base. And there are a lot of concerns at Holloman Air Force Base that concern the entire city of Alamogordo, and it's nice to see where the parallels are. Working with 5 bases to see what they're doing with regard to housing and daycare, which to me there are other important things when it comes to an Air Force or Army base, but housing and daycare are what affects the humans in the community very much. I also am part of the Eastern Regional Housing Authority. We had a city-run housing authority here in Alamogordo. We have 224 units, and over the past 40 years that it's been here, it has been successful, but it has some issues. So the HUD, Housing and Urban Development, took it over, and now it is managed out of Roswell. And right now I feel like I have cement shoes on and I'm trying to get across the highway. They have a lot of plans in place that I think the current administration is going to be thwarting a lot of the things that they've been talking about. In addition to that, I got on the ZIA board because in addition to having housing, daycare, food, shelter, people need transportation.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't very long ago that Yvette Harrell worked with ZIA, and we managed to get public transportation here in Alamogordo, subsidized not only by the city, but the county and the Department of Transportation. What I feel like I'm doing is getting a bird's eye view of what's happening in the community. And from all the work I do, and I work out of the counseling center, please note that I work for free 5 days a week. I'm out in the desert. I'm looking behind the mesquite bushes. There's nobody out behind the mesquite bushes. They have camps. They are organized. They have a community. A lot of people, unfortunately, live in the county in junkyards. I don't know if any of you have ever had the pleasure, but I've put together overhead presentations where I show you what these people live in. They live in the county, in a junkyard, in dilapidated trailers with no water, sewer, gas, or electricity. They are charged rent. I go to the city attorney and I complain that makes them landlords. Oh, he says, we can shut them down. But the county attorney. But what if we shut them down? Where are these people going to go? And there are multiple camps out there. During this PID process this time, I've been out to most of the camps, and these guys try to make the most of where they live, and they're doing a good job. But they don't have heat. They need heaters. They have maybe one extension cord where everybody's on it. It blows every day. The water, I looked at their water filter in one camp yesterday, and I wouldn't give that water to my plants. And these people are thinking they're drinking potable water. I go fill up, it's only $1.50, but everybody can do it. You can fill up these 5-gallon water things and provide water for these poor people. I am called every single day by people, every single day, saying, we saw somebody at the corner of blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, okay, go help them. And why is it one person's responsibility to help people? And as I do this work, and I notice this with a lot of people who do this work, you become a little bit cynical. The day that you realize you're working harder than the people you're working for is the day you go take a Tylenol and wonder why you're doing it. But I have concluded through all this that thanks to people like Loving, thanks to the meal that Grace Methodist has been providing for 25 years now on Saturdays, thanks to the work that the community is doing, and there are resources. When I hear people say there are no resources, I just look at my list of 300 resources and go, okay, whatever. We also have, in the past couple of years, provided community connections. We've got people out in the community every day, every single day, helping people every day. 3 people represented here. Well, Katie is the coordinator for 100% Otero. 100% Otero has been in town now for 5 years. And what they do is they address 10 issues, 10 important issues. And I invite and welcome anybody to get on the website and look at what the people are trying to do. The 100% Otero was not designed to provide the resources, but to coordinate the resources. And advertising has always been a challenge. The other thing I do here in this community, I've been doing it voluntarily for about 17 years, is a morning radio show, community radio, where Mondays and Wednesdays, I talk about everything going on in this town. When somebody comes up to me and says, oh, I didn't know you were doing that, or I didn't know Pastor Anthony was having a warming station for homeless people, I just want to say, well, you want me to come to your door, knock on it, and tell you? Or we invite you to listen to the available resources to hear about stuff. We have a growing newspaper. I encourage you to look at what Elva Osterreich, Warren Robinson, and that group is doing with regard to keeping the community informed about not only the news stories, but about the community events that are going on in and around the community. But and I'm sorry, I take up some time. But I think the most important thing right now, from my evaluation, is seeing how gracious and giving all of the people in the community are. We need a point person. In all the years I've been doing this, Rich has been doing this, people have been doing this work, people from Step House, Pastor Hoffman. We need somebody who the governor and her staff and people who actually have the purse strings can talk to about our issues. A sanctioned 501c3 that understands what's going on in the community, that can be there to answer questions. When a congressman calls and they need information, they'll call 100% Otero. They don't have all the information. They're trying to get all the information, but why not have a point person, either subsidized possibly by the city or the county? Call it a housing person, call it a homeless office person, whatever.
The call is about to end, so if everybody in the call wants to transfer to the 12 o'clock meeting.
Good idea. Also, please keep in mind the counseling center is extremely generous with regard to allowing you to use their Zoom accounts, their conference rooms, etc. So we can do it without time limitation.
Thank you.
So, but I really do believe that if we had a person that the state can contact, the city can contact, the county can contact, I think we'd be a lot better. A resource guru. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Feel free to have my page.
I want to double check something.
So, and I apologize for my ignorance and not knowing that there is a list of all the resources, because like when I go to different places in the
Do you want to
community-
share that link with the other people? Because only one person transferred.
I'm sorry, when I go to different places in the community,
You just hit pause to re-enter these people just real quick. Would you mind?
that's fine. Yes,
Just
we
like,
can
just
pause.
give like
Sorry.
a 90 seconds pause.
I'm not familiar with Google Meets.
Yeah.
I use Discord, no time limit.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to my,
Email.
and we're gonna go to,
Intermission. Anybody want some coffee?
There's
or-
Any potty break?
tea.
Potty break.
I want to go to
Gentlemen, you want some coffee? Ladies, want some tea, coffee? Anybody?
so they're gonna go into this one.
Right. And that's what that is right now. So who all? It's already, you're already joined.
Okay.
I
You're already on it.
made it fresh yesterday.
But only one person transferred,
Okay.
so that's why I said, do you want to resend it? So that way it's
No,
fresh.
because they should have it. Thank you, Ashley, for joining. We're just waiting for others to join.
Because who all's invited? Because they might have other stuff. I don't know names, so.
Okay,
You gotta.
So the most important ones are these two right here.
Anybody else want something to drink?
I don't think Cook was in there.
Water?
Oh.
No? Water? I'll take water.
Oh, there's somebody. We got one.
Perfect. Thank you. So, yeah. So, Rosalind and Ashley, right now, everybody's just getting up and stretching their legs and grabbing something to drink while we were doing this. Thank you.
There are snacks on the table Carmen, we're gonna pull back together. We do have people back on the computer. So in respect to everyone's time, we're gonna pull back together, and I appreciate everybody's time and
Anybody in the bathroom?
communication.
Not that's on the agenda.
Okay.
And did Sharon McDonald come in at all? No? Okay.
It says that Joanne Vola doesn't have the link. Mom.
Okay, I'll get it.
Okay, we can go up to add a guest.
What's her?
And it's Tara. This one right here. This is her.
Here, give me a minute.
Okay, go back to.
So it says that she's on it.
She's on. So I don't know why it would say she didn't have the link. Because I sent it to her. We're fine. We'll just go to the meeting.
You're not unmuted.
Okay.
Or you're not muted.
That's fine. That's fine.
So
yeah,
the
click
link.
on the click on where it says 14 guests so we can see, because I believe she is included.
It says that she is.
Yeah, she's there.
She's included. I'm going to resend the link.
So, did she send you an email?
No, I'm sending it. That's her email, right?
Yes.
Alright, I'm sending the link.
Sorry, we had one person that didn't reconnect and had some questions. So what I was saying was, I apologize, I didn't realize that 100% Otoro had that list. I was looking in public places in the community to see, is there a list?
The little
I know when
shinobi,
consulted
I accepted it, but I
Pastor- or
didn't
talked to
join.
Pastor Lupe, and he said, people need a place to take showers. And I said, there is one, they can get showers at Runner's Refuge. And, so I felt like there was a disconnect there. So maybe that person that is the point person, or having things posted somewhere, that was my first idea, because I was looking like in Walmart and at the library. Is there a list of resources that people can just eyeball and see, where can I get this? Because maybe not everybody has the opportunity to listen to the radio, to get the newspaper. They may not be able to read. So.
We have a resource book, and it's, you can't just eyeball it. It's literally pages and pages and pages
There we go.
of information.
Have we ever contemplated taking that resource book and putting it at the library?
I take
I mean-
stacks of
Okay, I'm
those
on.
every time we update it.
Because I mean, like when I lived in Fort Worth, how we did is all of our libraries became a hub for information. And
Yeah, they have.
a lot of people just come in and flip through the books. It's so daunting because it's so huge. But it at least was there. We could point people to it. But if it's there, awesome. Like, I'll
That
start
should
pointing
have
people
it.
Yes,
to that.
that's good to know. Thank you so much. Yes. Yes.
Just while the thing's coming back on, so the idea of having a library as an expanded hub is pretty prevalent nationwide, and if we look to our neighbors and see how they're using their public libraries, they are in fact being reinvented across the nation, not just for these kinds of resources, but for other kinds of resources too. And there's a whole new growing language that has evolved in the last 20 years around that. So when I hear I mean, I know that Nadia has like a depth of knowledge that she can't just download in 3 minutes because she's worked in this field for like half of a lifetime, or in some cases a lifetime, depending on how old you are and you're in the room, right? So when we have that generational knowledge, and then we have resource knowledge that's intergenerational, and we're in this complex moment right now with the interface between online services and real life services, and then we're talking about wealth gaps as well. There's a huge sense of doing exactly what just happened. We get somebody who has an incredible wealth of knowledge, a room full of people, and someone like yourself who also has a wealth of knowledge, and there I hear the apology, I'm sorry, I didn't know. That's what we have to actually break in part of this dysfunction cycle, is this thing where we apologize for what we don't know. What we need to do is replace it with a different model. And so I totally agree with pretty much everything everyone said in the room. There's a concept that as a matter of fact, when I was working at Zia Therapy for almost a decade, it's been prevalent for the last 20 years in human services. Instead of just building relationship between you and me, Heather, is what we need to do in order to grow the work we do, is we need to find people to strengthen the relationship for us with knowledge they don't know. So if Heather and I are searching for something, and Nadia, who's got, she's got both expertise personally, but she's also at this point got intergenerational knowledge that she's been getting stacked on her for 20 years.
Just saying I'm old here?
I'm actually saying you're becoming an elder, and in our community we don't have good language around that. So when our elders see us, instead of her saying, hey, you don't know what you're doing, hey Burns, you don't either, like go here and fix it, what she does is she lays her knowledge on the pathway between us. And as she does that, we're like, hot dang, Wendy exists. Hey, I saw him out in that neighborhood, had no idea he knew all that stuff, and him and I have some shared path. So then instead of just building a relationship with the people, we're actually, you change the model. You're building, you're knowing who people are, and you're trying to facilitate the relationships between others. And when we focus on that, that's how these information silos get broken down, and the information starts to flow more rapidly. So it's just kind of changing the model of how we're thinking, and so that we break down that barrier where we get these bottlenecks of really good information and we can't get it to flow. So just a thought.
Thank you. Good points.
It's working.
Rosalind, do you have things you would like to say? For those of you that do not have an agenda, Rosalind is with the Department of Finance and Administration for the state of New Mexico. So she's out of the governor's office.
Hi, and actually, just sorry, I know my title is really confusing, but housed at DFA. I actually work right under Taylor Cook at the Office of Housing. So I'm a senior project manager to address homeless initiatives. And first and foremost, thank you so much for having us. I'm really excited to learn about the efforts in Alamogordo, and I've had the pleasure of speaking to some of you that are doing this work. I've been taking notes, and the collaboration is really, truly inspiring. I just had a couple of questions because I had a hard time hearing at first. Do you have some healthcare and behavioral health experts in the room that are currently doing this work through like the county health office, or as far as counseling or behavioral health services? I apologize, I didn't hear everyone's title.
Maureen isn't here. Maureen Schmidl is the outreach person for the Department of Health.
Okay.
And but the Department of Health does quite a few things here locally.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. And please know that we're here to support. It sounds like you guys are already thinking of the outcome of what you want, which is to move people back into the community. And it's just really beautiful to see this community-centered effort. Please know that we'd like to continue to be a part and see how we can help with planning and capacity building. We're just really excited to hear about all of the good work you're doing and to hear about your plans. That would be our role, is to help with planning and capacity building and to help you meet that outcome, which is to move people back into the community and make sure that they're housed and safe.
Does anyone here have questions for Rosalind? Yes, go for it.
So Rosalind, could you, two things. One is, could you repeat your title that you felt was relevant to this conversation? And then the second question is, when you talk about planning and capacity building, the two major things that I've heard this morning are, while we may have like a place or even a group of people who would love to have funding for a $2 million shelter, we don't have capacity and planning for how to upkeep such a shelter, or even look at the whole package of building a shelter and upkeeping a shelter in terms of a municipality being a part of that versus the county versus some other system that we haven't invented yet.
So I'm the senior project manager for homeless initiatives here, and I work in special projects. So I do some of the youth homeless work and some of the other work under Taylor. So I've made a note of that, and I think that part of what we can do. I'm a social worker, so I've been a social worker my entire career. When I think of support and planning for upkeep of a shelter and understanding, policy and procedure and how those things run, I can think of a plethora of resources and people to help connect you with that have done that. And I think that absolutely, when we talk about capacity building, that would definitely be part of our role, is to help you make those connections, to learn from other organizations that are already doing this work, and to also help connect you with the appropriate people that can help with those plans, make sure it's community centered and in line with the mission and vision of your project.
Joanne has a question.
Okay, Joanne?
Okay, okay, sorry. More than that, I have a comment. I think that this is where all of our resources or organizations in Otero County can collaborate to manage this shelter. This is where we can all apply for grants and and it can be put in a pot. I don't know if we a 501c3 or like a department in the maybe a private and public partnership. So this kind of money we can get. We just can't get $2 million to build a shelter. But we can get small loans, I mean, not loans, but grants, and then we can maintain it.
It's not to build a shelter. It's $2 million a year to sustain a shelter.
Right.
Okay, well, whatever it costs to build it, I think capital outlay is where we need the money from, not from us. We can't get that kind of money, but we can get grants to sustain it.
Yeah, I believe the governor, she's on record now, said she would give us the money to build the shelter. And she's on record as saying that, so I don't think that's the issue. The issue is, how do you sustain it?
So, and my question to everyone in the room and online would be, do we want to quote unquote build a shelter, or do we want to take advantage of some buildings that are already here in town and fix them up? I'm not familiar with all the codes for the city. I know there are some people in the room that are more familiar. Cost effective wise and time wise, it would seem like it would be faster to take over a building that's already existing, but I'm open to what everyone has to say.
But sometimes if the government's going to pay for it, it costs more to renovate a building up to government standards than it would be to build a new one.
I think the conversation's a little premature.
Okay.
In order to get the money, you have to have somebody to give it to. Think about that. We have nobody, and think about it locally. A lot of people will say, well, Runner's Refuge, Rich Hernandez, but Rich understands the ramifications of even attempting to start a shelter based on the period of time that you did it. And he did an excellent job, but the issues kept popping up. I've had conversations since our town meeting with the governor about what you need to give the money to somebody. Look at Albuquerque. You know, their homeless situation has gone up 83%. Who do they give the money to? Who does the state give the money to? They give it to the Coalition to End Homelessness. They give it to people who are already in the business, knowing how to do it. All of us have done this work, and we know that if you promise somebody something and then you can't come through, you hear two things. Nobody wants to help me, and I'm never gonna get any help, blah, blah, blah. So you can't make promises that you can't keep.
Right.
And if we keep telling people we're gonna, you know, I really do believe we need to start a little bit more conservatively. A resource center, a place that people can go to get information about mental health, about even medical information, to get information about housing, rental, to get information about transportation, clothing, closets, haircuts. I mean, you start out conservatively, and then as you build, the community starts viewing what you're doing, observing what you're doing, and wanting to get on your bandwagon. And I've seen that in the 3 years since Rich has been doing this. The people who give you accolades for being able to be here. I've seen the work that you've been able to do here. I've seen what happens with Love Inc. And people are starting to catch on. It's like it takes a while to get woke. Mr. Lewis, I mean, you are so familiar with the whole situation.
Yeah.
You know, from the Love Inc. point of view, from the community point of view. Think of the Ministerial Alliance. 35 ministers who have been in town for, what, 20 years. Of that, we got the Hunger Coalition. We've got the Hunger Coalition working on food insecurity. We've got ministers who are aware. And here's the thing too, when I hear people say there are no resources, I think about every church I've ever worked with that's standing by, ready
People's
to
right
help.
here.
Oh.
Ready to help, and we don't give them the credit or the acknowledgement. The Catholic churches, Christ Community, Grace Methodist, and they're all out there doing this work. We just need to coordinate it.
Yeah, I completely agree with her. I don't think the issue is lack of resources. I think the issue is lack of communication. And I think Leonard even knows, just from the Ministerial Alliance, getting through to them. And the Ministerial Alliance is what created Love Inc. They're the ones, I mean, the churches support us, and I still can't get through to them. And I work with them every day, every week. I talk to them all the time, and I still can't get through to them. And it's just because they're busy, and I get it. And I tell them, okay, so Pastor, you don't have to do it. Appoint somebody from your church, and I still can't get through to them. So I don't think the problem is the lack of resources. There are so many resources out there. It's a lack of communication, I think, is the
So
issue.
is it the communication itself, or is it like organization of all the bits of lack of communication?
Well, like, I'll give you an example. So Joanne, the other day, her and Greg Gutierrez came to my building, and they came with another gentleman, Roland Cooper. And Roland had put together this whole like program that morning, right? And he had his laptop, and so I said, okay, well, let me show you around. I'll show you what we do. So they toured the building, and I was telling them everything they would do, and I could see their eyes kind of getting bigger and their wheels spinning. And then, you know, I could spend forever talking about what we do there, because it's been my life for the last, 16 years, right? And so then when we were done, we sat down. I said, okay, and I know Roland. I said, okay, Roland, well, let me see what you got. And everything that he had as an idea to be done, he was like, well, this was pointless because you're already doing it. And I'm like, how do you not know that? You don't know that because, and it's not like I don't talk about it. I get in trouble for talking about it. I get accused of bragging about it. I get accused of talking. I'm sorry, but I'm just being honest with you. And I'm like, okay, so then I don't talk about it. And then they're like, well, we didn't know you were doing all this. Well, I'm trying to tell you we're doing all this. This is what we've been doing. But we're not communicating. And I honestly think sometimes as nonprofits, we have this idea that we need to compete with each other.
Right.
And I keep telling everybody, you don't have to compete for needy people, because I assure you they're going to come to all of us. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether Rich has helped them, they're going to come to me. It doesn't matter whether I've helped them, they're going to go to Rich. I send people here nobody's more disappointed that this shelter
Isn't 24/7.
isn't, than me. Because for every time you can't provide a night, it's like $65, right? And so, nobody's more disappointed. I'm very disappointed, and I want a place that we can send them, but we're not communicating, and I'm to the point where I just throw my hands up and I'm like, I'm not competing with anybody. We're doing what we're doing, and we're doing the best we can, and I think that that's all of us. We're doing the best that we can, so.
So Susan, is the,
She has her hand up.
sorry.
Yes. Oh.
Priority.
I just wanna say we're all helping the same community, and I thank everybody for doing what we do, because it is endless work. It is endless. There's not enough workers. But at the end of the day, if we could all come together, like Susan was saying, if it's $68 a night to put them in a hotel, every church is putting people up in a hotel. Okay? If you come to an agreement and you give it to Runner's Refuge and we can open up the shelter, we're all volunteers. There is nobody that gets paid. So to come in and clean up after 30-some people a day is exhausting. So you're thinking about everything. We feed them, we house them, we do the laundry. We need help. Why don't, some churches send 5 or 6 people over and say, hey, we're here to take this night over. So we're up 24 hours a day. We're cooking, we're cleaning. Did we want to shut the doors? No. We don't have the finances and we don't have the people. And if you guys want to say we need a shelter, we have the property. We just need the organization to come together and say we can help you. We're not competing. This is our community. We love them all. We share what Love Inc. does. We share what Grace does. We share what the Well does. We get donations. We get too many donations. We go out and we deliver them to other places because we know that they're doing the same thing we're doing. But if we want a shelter so bad, we want them to be safe, let's just get together and say, hey, if Dusty's putting 4 people up a month in a hotel, write that check to Runner's Refuge and we could open up the doors. It's $3,000 a month to run electricity with no funding. Nobody funds us. So you want a shelter? We have a shelter. We had one, and it breaks our heart that we had to close it. We open it up when Red Cross comes in and they're like, they have a fire, we'll open it up, we'll bring our cots out. We are not competing, we are sharing, we're all one community. So if you could say, hey, your church gives out 2 rooms a
How many
month.
rooms? How many rooms y'all have?
We put
We
this
have 3
side as the
properties.
males.
This one, the house behind us, and the other one at the end of the block.
So how many rooms just in general?
We had, at
Yes.
one point, we were putting, in 2023, we put 1,500 people up in a cot or somewhere to stay. So
the
that's
men
about
stay in
50
there.
people, I don't know how many that is a month, 100 people a month.
So the men stay in here, we double side the beds, okay? We use it as a dining
We
hall
had
and a
12 in
sleeping
here at
hall.
one point.
12 in here, and then in the women's side, we have
could
3
put-
different bedrooms, but one is a family, so if a mom comes in with babies or whatever.
We could put 6 to 8 in there.
We can put 6 to 8 in there, they have a full kitchen, a full bathroom, the whole,
I'm just
everything's
thinking
in there.
about, how many churches are there in?
We're not,
How many churches are here in town? I'm thinking,
30-some.
Have you?
we're not in
if you-
any
if
way
you had
set up to
several-
run
if you
to
have
do a
several
shelter.
of them to sponsor.
Right.
Yeah,
Right,
we
no,
just
I
don't
think
have
that's
the
the key.
people, our people.
Right.
Joanne
right now
has a
are
question as
so
well.
burnt out. Like, we cook over 100 plus meals.
What do you need?
People. We need people, we need money.
So with all that said, here's the outcome that I wanted to see. We've already had 2 other meetings, this is the 3rd one, and I'm tired of having meetings. I wanna do something.
We still have the same people.
What I wanna see happen, if we're talking about outcomes, is I can see more than 7 people in this room, is what I'm told we have to have for a board to form another organization for the person to give the money to.
That's what I was saying.
That's exactly.
That's what I wanna see
exactly.
happen,
So
so
here's,
that we can have somewhere where we can say, hey, can we get some MFA money so we can refurbish some houses, build a community where we can put camping that's legal? Can we buy a building where we can do some micro apartments, basically like a hotel? There's different stages that we could do this in, but we gotta start.
so you need a
So
coalition of
we need,
nonprofits.
we need a nonprofit
Well,
with a
that-
board that
right.
is non-religious based, because there's a separation of church and state.
Right.
I don't care. I just see people as people, and that's what I wanna see happen here. I don't wanna have another meeting unless we're gonna say,
Do
hey,
something.
you wanna be a board member? Great, sign your
Amen.
name on
Let's go.
there and let's become a board member.
So
Well,
I,
that's the key,
I
because-
really wanna say something really urgently here, cause
Come on.
I am, like, I feel the same way as you. I was diffident about coming down here this morning, 'cause if I sit in one more meeting, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I hear the cynicism for, you've been doing the same thing, but you're doing good work. We're all doing good work. That's not the issue.
Between meetings.
Between
Yeah.
meetings.
Exactly.
Amen.
Right now,
So,
we have a meeting.
so I've been thinking about this board thing and the fact there's so many nonprofits. I was, informed by some groups in Santa Fe that one of the things that they're doing, cause they're tackling this same issue, is they have started using a board training, that's centered out of El Paso to invite all the boards of all of these different places that are sick of meetings, is take the board members themselves, put them through, all into this same sort of, invite them to come through board training together, so the boards themselves are becoming more educated about how they can use their resources to pool into some sort of central thing for whatever issues, in this case it's housing, right? Until we actually have different conversations between the boards, between the education of the boards and stuff, we're just doing what Susan says, like, we're doing it, we keep explaining what we're doing, but that's not the point. We want something different. We wanna actually have like a way of taking all of these good groups
Yeah.
and taking all those people who do like to sit in meetings, cause that's what they're good at, and they're at that point in their life where that works, have them go work on that stuff, while the rest of us who maybe have like timed out on meetings
That's
are
what we
doing some
need.
of the other work, right?
We're perfectly fine as an organization, taking all of our resources that have been given to us, and we go and we serve people meals at Love Inc. I don't have a problem with that.
Right.
We can make a meal and serve it at your church on Saturday. I don't have a problem
So
with
it's
that.
kinda like
It's
the-
not
in the-
mine,
in the-
but we need that organization that she's talking about.
And that's the key.
And that person, okay, we're gonna go to Dusty because Dusty's, passionate about it, and he's gonna run it out of his church, and he's gonna have another fourth job, cause now he's Jamaican, and we're gonna do all this stuff. And we're gonna make it so that when the governor's office says they need to speak to somebody, they're gonna talk to a homelessness coalition of Alamogordo, and Dusty Marshall's gonna be the lead person, and then we can all just go to Dusty.
That allows us
And
all.
gather up our resources like it talks about. That's what I wanna see happen in this
So
meeting.
it's kind of like in the public schools, let's think about high school, we need some substitute teachers, we blasted our way through for 20 years. And now if you sign up to be a substitute teacher, there's this cool little piece of software, and it doesn't just do the high school, it does the middle school, it does all of the 15 elementaries, or however many we have right now. And so you go on there and you've got time and effort to offer, and you can go in there and see, this is where the need is this week, I can't help with that, I'm booked, but you can go out way ahead. So if we have an analogous kind of thing, and instead of it being substitute teachers, it's your nonprofit, and you look like, here's the need
I
stacked
do it all
out.
the time.
If we have
You
that
ask
kind
Nadia.
of
I
coalition.
got Nadia's phone number, I call her. I
Right.
call Sherry over at Love
But
Inc.
I'm blind to
I've
it.
called their
Do you-
church over this,
do-
I
that's what
talked to
we're
Dusty,
saying.
we
Right.
have put these things together, we're
We're
a hub,
blind-
we're a
right.
hub, we're a hub.
You,
You're a
right.
hub, you're a hub.
So we
But
need all the hubs
need to be
to
able to
see
speak
each
to each
other's-
other, not be,
yeah.
I can't be afraid to call Love Inc. and say, hey, I need a bus ticket for somebody, we don't have the resources.
Well, I think that goes back
You
to
know?
what she was saying. We've gotten so territorial in what we're doing. We can't afford to do that to really address the issue
You
we're
have
trying
to
to
let
address.
loose, yeah.
And I think you're right. I mean, and no offense to myself, I'm a huge nerd, okay, so just go with the analogy or make fun of me. But when you start looking at like Star Trek, what's the whole point that they did with the whole writing of that show? You had a united Federation of Planets to do what?
United.
To unite themselves for a common goal. There's no reason why all of our organizations and our churches, even with the Ministerial Alliance, with Runner's Refuge, with Love Inc., you take them all. There's no reason we can't all sit at the table, and I can't at that table during, heaven forbid, a board meeting. Sorry, I'm Baptist, so we really like meetings, okay?
There's coffee, right?
Right. So there's no reason why we can't sit at that board meeting and be able to start saying some of those concerns, and me be able to go, look, I do have a guy I'm working with. He's a little hesitant to come to Runner's Refuge, but he really needs some mental health. You know, what can I send him? What's available? Who can I get him to call? And we can start connecting people greatly. And then as we work with our state government, we can go, we have one organization. Thank you for willing to help us. Here's the stage we're in. I don't think we have to have a knee-jerk reaction and go, we've got to do it now. And I understand we've been doing it for years and people wanted it for years. But that doesn't mean we've handled it correctly for years. So we still have to start at stage one.
We
to
need to be
get to
proactive
Yeah, to get
instead
to
of
the point we
reactive.
need to get
Exactly.
to. And so if we can all come together and create a nonprofit board that has a representation on that board from all of our organizations, then we find ourselves moving forward with whatever grants, whatever government entity, whatever other national organization that goes, okay, how can we help Alamogordo? How can we help Otero? What do we do? What do you guys need? We need manpower. Guess what? We have an entire crew that's in Pennsylvania that's willing to come down and help with this in the middle of August. Cool, sounds great. But we can also then ask all of our organizations to go, hey, if we all took all of our funding that we have in our organization and we just took 3%, and so we're gonna give it to this nonprofit board.
How about
to
10%?
go-
That's biblical.
Well, yeah, that's biblical, right, 10%.
This is tight, here, you can have this much.
And what happens is we start finding that key word of cooperation. No offense, and I'm probably, if somebody hears this in our association, I'm probably gonna get yelled at. You understand how
You
this
got your
works.
back, brother.
Right.
I don't know what
I
you're gonna
don't
say
care.
here.
I don't care your denominational background. I don't care if you're an atheist in the room. I was once an atheist too. We'll have a great conversation. What I care about is not having my mom sit at a table bawling her eyes out because she couldn't feed her boys. And my story is not unique. So how can all of us come together and go, yeah, you know what? Even at the well, we're willing to commit 3% of our $14,000 budget. That's all we got. We'll commit 3% to this new board so we can battle homelessness. And we can start talking of a
We'll do
shelter
the
at some
same.
point.
I think that's a good idea.
But we
Because
have
at
to
that
do
point,
that.
we're all
That's
pulling
what-
together.
That's what we have to
We
do.
all have investment. We're all literally saying, I'm putting something on the line, and now we're going, yeah, we're all owners of this. How do we work together?
Okay, go ahead,
Okay,
and
wait,
then
right
Heather,
here,
and then.
So I just wanna say, first of all, I'm going to say, like, I am naive to the inner workings of nonprofits. I've worked a little bit with Community Power New Mexico. We, built it from, I was an original board member but I'm still very new and learning. So I'm gonna preface it with that and follow it by saying, from the outside, I've wanted to go and volunteer, but maybe, before this meeting, my thought process was we don't have enough resources. But after being here and seeing everybody that cares so much, I see I was wrong, and I am confused by the resources as somebody that's looking from the outside in. And so what I think would be really awesome is, I'm just gonna reiterate what people have been saying, as somebody that's looking from the outside in, a hub where people can go to and get referred to the places that are best will make things a lot more centralized, and it'll be, kind of streamline the process. So I think the idea of a board is fantastic. I think it's amazing, and I think we can really do great things with everybody that seems to care so much in the community. And the other thing I wanna say is the resource that we have with Rosalind and Taylor is something that we need to hold on to in a relationship that we should really water and grow, because it's a huge asset, where we can look for somebody that can help us with planning and capacity building. So I just wanna kind of emphasize the need to keep that relationship and grow that relationship, so.
In conjunction with that, I have 5 daughters, 2 are redheads. I just got preempted by another redhead. In conjunction with that, giving like 3%, or if you, I don't think you'll get a tithe out of them, but 3% maybe. That they also do that with volunteers.
Right.
Because
Time is money.
I've never been in a church, well, in this town, where the pastor said, so-and-so needs volunteers down there. If any of you people are looking to help, whatever else, I would guarantee that there are a boatload of Christians and churches in this town that aren't even aware that Runner's Refuge exists.
Yep.
That is
And-
true.
and
That's true. That is
There's
true.
something wrong with that.
We're touring the churches now.
So-
I'll see you soon.
Can I get a t-shirt?
Come on by.
My wife-
My door's always open.
I'm going.
I've worked in church for a long time, and my wife has a saying that if the pastor is not behind it,
Right.
not if the pastor's okay with it, bless you, go ahead, I hear what you wanna do. If the pastor is not behind it and promotes it, it won't work. So, you, in the process of looking for help financially, you wanna let them know that you've got volunteers in here that are waiting to find out where the needs are.
Right.
Let them know there are other needs that we can contribute to in that too, and just have the information available within each church.
Right.
And have the pastors tuned into it.
And I know from my experience, like doing church planting and things like that, we've had churches that have sent 3, 4, 5, 6 people to help plant a church, and they don't stay over there permanently. They come back home and still do the missions work of the church. And so if that's a communication that our pastors can hear and go, I'm not losing my people to the missions work we're already doing, but I am loaning them for the missions work that needs to be done in the city. I think that becomes a very viable conversation as a pastor.
Daniel?
Joanna's probably gonna gnaw off her fingers. She's been holding
Sorry,
up her
Joanna.
hand since she was holding her
Okay,
hand.
okay. Joanne?
I'd like a show of hands of one person from each of the organizations that will meet. So I will check with our board, but I'm sure they will take the offer because it is too much for us all. We have other, okay, I see the hands and I'm raising my hand and I'll ask my board, but I am sure one person from the board would be able to help. I know, Richard, thank you. So somebody start the meeting. I will come to it, or I will send somebody from the board, but I know this is too big for us, so we will gladly join in efforts, and that's all I want to say.
I'm gonna pass around, these are BS pads, by the way. I use them in my schools when I taught. They're made by Bob Stilling. That's why they're called BS pads. If you needed an
You can write
explanation.
yes on it.
However, I'm gonna pass one of these around so everyone that had their hand up, go ahead and sign here and on this one coming around, and
We still have
Richard,
Taylor, we still have Mr.
Richard.
Taylor, right?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this room available same time next Tuesday?
Sure.
Just to continue the conversation
We
with
can have,
people?
this is a place where we're very, we've never had a place. We're a church outside the walls. So this is a place of whatever we need to use it for the community.
So just
As long as we don't have anything else going on, absolutely, we can do it again next week.
So Richard,
I cannot make next Tuesday. I have a doctor's appointment in El Paso.
Joanne, just to have an ongoing place and conversation already before we even continue this conversation.
yes, and there will be
We got a location.
other times and other places, and when we try to meet, I know this from organizing meetings with 25 people for special services meetings, that unfortunately not everyone can make every meeting, and that's okay. We can assign someone to make a summary of what was discussed.
And another thing that you can do with boards, we did this with Habitat for Humanity, not here, but Tom's. We always had some type of subcommittee that was focused on something very specific,
Right.
a need that came up. And so sometimes if those people didn't show up to the meeting, we still knew they were meeting because there was a report that was given. So anything's possible.
So I have a question of the group, because Susan Payne is like, she said she's here as Love Inc., and she said she's here as the mayor, but she also is here as my neighbor. And I mean that in a literal sense, because she literally lives like 2.5 blocks from my house. So some people are like super tied up and super involved, and they simply can't switch hats fast enough
Right.
to be in all of these things at once. And I applaud the fact that she's never home, or when she is home, we shouldn't knock on her door, kind
My
of thing.
husband disagrees with you.
Yeah, I know. So anyway, but my point is like, in order to work with what we've got, the city has like, they have that, you guys have your hands full of projects. You've got a lot of things to do with limited resources as the city grew. So what I heard from the city is that the city doesn't have a plan for how, if somebody took the $2 million from the governor's office and we plonked down the shelter, and it took, I don't know, a year to get that done, just for argument's sake. The city right now doesn't apparently have, it would seem today, capacity to take on that planning for picking it up and going forward.
There is no way that they can handle that.
Right, and so because that is the case, and because the city is also dealing with homelessness issues, Like, my question is it not enough for Mayor Payne to take back to the city the question of how much will it cost if we don't put at least some manpower into having an ear out for this other thing that's gonna go on in the community? Because you guys are saying we're gonna do it, right? We're gonna do something, is what I just heard.
There are a couple things that are already in place, and I really think, talking about building a shelter is a little premature. I think this is a list of potential volunteers, yes?
It's board members.
But things that are happening right now, 100% Ontario, Peg Crim, Lisa Yale, they are attempting to put together a resource center.
Right.
They wanna get buy-in for a resource center. The Counseling Center, 1900 10th Street, has volunteered with them multiple times that I've heard. They've got the room, they would like to do a resource center as well. We all talk about these ideas, yet we never chew them up, we never get it done. But a resource center is really important. What was the Dudley School supposed to be? I thought it was gonna be a community resource center.
I think it's gonna be a community center, not a well, it'll be a resource center,
But
probably in the fact that you can go there and find out where the resources are.
But it would be nice to have a location that people are aware of, that they go to get resources. We've got the income support. Anytime I'm in there, people come in there for all sorts of things. So, if we had a location that people knew about. What's happening, Rich, that I see and what I'm doing out there is people think of Runner's Refuge as the resource center. You can come by here, get blankets, get a shower, get your laundry done, get a meal. It is becoming a resource center, so this would be a perfect location.
Not opposed.
And
well, and
we just don't wanna duplicate, we don't wanna duplicate anything else that's going on.
Right, so why not focus?
You know, if Love Inc. is doing a way better job of being a food pantry, we'll just give you all the food, and you can have the food pantry.
I would not say we're doing a better job.
Well, I'm just saying,
Good job.
I don't
But
wanna
you know what?
duplicate.
Here's the thing, things like
You
that.
guys, Rosalind needs to leave.
Okay, Rosalind is
I'm-
from the State Department. So, Rosalind, do you have some words of wisdom for us, please?
I've been listening and taking some really comprehensive notes. So first and foremost, I'm a social worker. So I'm going to reach out to my personal network to see who maybe has some ideas or best practices and policies to support the work that you all are doing. I think everyone here is doing incredible work. And I am going to be reaching out with some follow-up questions that I had just to clarify how we could best support. I want to make sure that we're not that we're adding value to the work that's already being done instead of maybe starting a new project. And I have some questions of clarification to better understand some of the resources and some of the really beautiful things that are happening. I would love to continue attending these meetings. I would love to make a trip down and meet you all in person. You guys are doing such beautiful work. I actually have a very good friend. Her name is Xochitl Valenzuela that worked in Alamogordo for a long time and worked with a lot of the resources there. So I'm recognizing some of the names that she mentioned. So I understand the caliber of the good work that you do, and I'm here to help. I will reach out to my network and get back to you with any ideas that they may have in ways that they're able to support, especially with best practices, policies, and procedures with all of the resources you already do have to push your efforts forward and help support those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have scheduled meetings
So,
that everybody's welcome to attend.
More meetings?
No, we've got
Dusty's happy.
We've got 100% Ontario meeting on the first Wednesday and the third Wednesday of every month, at which point you can see the 10 sectors and determine which sector you might want to volunteer with, including things like mentoring, job training, food, housing. We do a regular housing meeting every second Tuesday at 3 p.m. I do it live and via Zoom. And we do them at the Counseling Center. Everybody's welcome, and we're doing presentations. And just so you know, Judge Andy Schneider, John Wheeler, who heads up Sacramento Mountain Foundation, and a whole crew of people are going to Florida because they want to investigate not necessarily a shelter, but these houses that they have that are limited capacity, like 12 people. live in a house and support it. They're going there to see that. We've got that in Cruces, we've got it in Albuquerque, but I'd like to hear what they say about going in.
So, and I have a connection in Florida in Polk County. He's on the board for housing. Their situation looks a lot different than ours because of the hurricanes and such. And what they're looking at is they're looking at turning garages into studio apartments and all kinds of different things. But I've been picking his brain also. He was my Sunday school teacher years ago.
And there's a lot going on right now.
Yes.
We have 3 projects that are building projects. Judy Oliver's building project behind Moonglow. We've got the project over on Scenic, the old church property. They're supposed to be building something there. Hamilton Road, and then Holloman Air Force Base is doing a public-private partnership. It's a done deal. We're gonna be doing groundbreaking really soon to do dorm-style living for.
That's only for airmen though.
For the airmen, where they'll be using their.
But
Here's what it does. If economic theory holds,
it frees up.
Free up 125 locations in Alamogordo, and now we've got some supply of housing for people to move into.
But here's the thing.
Running out of time, guys. That's what it says.
Okay, I apologize, Joanne, but when the time is up, we may continue here without you.
Okay, I'll just leave now.
Okay, thank you.
Joanne, it was nice hearing from you.
Yes, it was. You had good information. Thank you.
And thank you for what you're doing.
What I want to tell you from a city perspective, and Nadia
Just get in touch with us if we're gonna have a meeting.
Nadia just hit the nail on the head. Is
Okay.
And I know that really practically you probably understand this, but just to emphasize it, I heard what you said. I heard what you said about those that are homeless or low income versus the rich or whatever. I can't look at it that way. I have to look at the city as a whole. And when I look at the city as a whole, there's a huge housing shortage, period, across the board. It's not just homeless, it's not just low income. It is across the board. It is the military. The military is our biggest economic driver. If the base shuts down, I know you've heard this a million times, but it's true. If the base shuts down, we fail to exist. We're just not there yet, right? And so we have to make sure that when airmen come in or when officers come in, that they have that housing, and we don't have enough of that right now. So when we look at housing, this is my city hat, this is not my Loving Cat, but on my city hat, when we look at housing, I have to think of every segment of the population, whether they make $100,000 a year or $10,000 a year. It doesn't matter, because as a city, our obligation, because how is the city funded? We're funded by taxpayer dollars, okay? And every segment of that population pays those taxpayer dollars. We're unique in some respects to other cities because we're not funded by property taxes. So anybody that says I pay my property taxes and thinks we're funded by that, that's actually a misnomer. We're actually funded mostly by when you go purchase something, right? We're funded by GRT. We get a percentage of that. So we have to consider the entire population when we're talking about housing. And we have to make sure that when we're looking at filling those housing gaps, that we're looking at it for all segments of the population. I understand the low income part of it, but what I hear a lot of is affordable housing, and I have yet to have somebody define to me what exactly do you mean by affordable housing, because there was a time, I remember when we started living, you could go rent a trailer at Canal Park for like $300 a month. Well, those days are gone, and we're never getting them back. And that is just a product of, the economy. We're not in 2009 anymore. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? When you think about eggs being, $10 a dozen, which they are. I mean, they are. Let's be practical. And so all of those things play into it. But as a city, we have to consider all of that. And I think sometimes that's where the frustration comes in for people, is that we're working here as a group of people and we're focusing on low income or unsheltered, right? That's the purpose of this meeting.
Correct.
But when I put my mayor hat on, I still have to go, okay, while I don't disagree with you here in this setting, I was elected to represent everybody, whether they make $100,000 a year or $10,000 a year, and I have to think about that entire population. And we do, as a city, have to think about that. We have a bridge that just crumbled. We've got to find the money for it.
Yeah.
Now.
Because we can't open that bridge. And now, not only do we have to do that, but we have to send people out to inspect. I think it's something like 25 bridges. Do you know we have like 25 bridges in
Make sure they don't
in
all crumble.
Alamogordo?
Yeah.
To make sure none of the rest of them are crumbling, because we have crumbling infrastructure, right? We just had to raise water rates. I know everybody's mad, I don't even want to talk about it. But the point is we had to do it because we have crumbling water infrastructure that has to be replaced. I don't tell you that to say the city doesn't have any money. I tell you that because all of those things have to be done in order to make something this huge successful in the city. I'm not saying it can't be done in the county. I don't know if it can, but I'm telling you that within the city to take on something like that and make it work, it's big. And we are, if I said to you, if I didn't, we're behind. We are behind as a city. I'd like to say I own it. I guess I do in a way because I'm currently, the mayor, whatever, but this should have been done 20 years ago, and it wasn't, and now we're not willing to kick that can down the road, and so as a result, you're starting to see, that but they have to be done because to sustain, $2 million a year to sustain the building, okay, but beyond that, to sustain, water into our city or those kinds of things, we have to upgrade all this stuff, and everything has to be done to create more housing. We have to ensure that we can provide water to people, right? And so all of those things are the things. My point is that I just want you to know, as a city, it's not about whether this, and I'm not really defending the city. I'm just trying to give an explanation. It's not about whether we care. Of course we care. Of course we do. But it's about, can we sustain that? And I will tell you that I have spent a lot of time on the phone with a lot of pastors in town the last week. And I've called some of the bigger churches because I want their feelings on it. I want to know, how do you feel about a shelter? Is it right? And a lot of the feedback I get is, yeah, I think we need it, but not right now. We can't do it right now.
So what will happen if we don't get a shelter and we're working on bridges and infrastructure because of the complexity of the landscape and the context? What will this issue, unaddressed as it is now, just sort of bumbling along as we are now, what is the opportunity cost of not doing something right now?
Well,
that's the number I'm interested in.
right.
Because as a
Before people
taxpayer,
leave, can you please write down your organization and what you
Yeah, 'cause
provide,
as
whether
a taxpayer,
food, clothing,
like
or
I-
something
if I
else?
plan to just stay
Because
for a
people
year
have
or two
disappeared.
in this town, or just maybe
And I'm not gonna
3 to
remember
6
everything.
years, cause I'm coming in from Holloman, and I'm only maybe here 2 to 6 years or something, my picture and context looks very, very different from if I'm like Nadia, she's here 20 plus years.
Right.
Like me, I'm here 20 plus years. Maybe you're here generationally. For people who are here for the long haul, what is the cost of kicking the can down the road and saying, not yet, not yet, not yet? If you're saying on all these other things it's 20 years overdue.
But I'm not saying.
What's the cost
I'm
of
not-
doing
I'm
nothing?
not saying kicking the can down the road. I'm saying that we are trying to figure out if we can sustain something like that right now. It's not.
That's what I'm saying. What's the cost of doing that? If you don't do it right now, if we don't get a shelter, we don't group up and
Right.
figure out how to sustain it.
We're trying to come up with an alternative plan for now. So it's not like we're
Okay.
not working on something, because we are, and I don't know if we're gonna talk about that tonight, but I'll probably mention it tonight, but we do have some thoughts, so it's not, a lot of research is being, I will tell you, a lot of research is being done. a lot of time is being put into this because we recognize it. Listen, I don't wanna go from 100 homeless people to 1,000 homeless people. That's not good for our community.
No,
It's
we're all
not.
agreed on that.
Right? And so we need to figure something else out. I will tell you that for me, as a mayor and as the director of levy, I'm in support of this if it includes those resources that you're talking about. Resources like, what is the cause of homelessness? Okay, we can say, well, sometimes they just have bad luck, and that's true. But I will tell you that people that sometimes just have bad luck usually figure out how to get out of it. And that's just from working with them all these years. I can tell you that yes, they may be homeless for a time, but they usually don't like being in that situation, and they work hard to get out of it, right? And that's where we come along, all of us, okay? But there's also another component, and it is a big component, and it's mental health issues, right? And so we have to have those resources to ensure that we're addressing the root cause of the issue, because you can't just say, here, I'm gonna give you a place to sleep. It's never gonna be enough. There has to be a plan in place to, yeah, we're gonna give you a place to sleep, but while we're doing that, we're gonna walk alongside of you. We're going to help you get the resources you need. And if it's a mental health issue, why aren't they getting Social Security? Those are the things that we need to be focused on
At the same time.
at the same time, which is where the $2 million a year comes in,
And I
right?
think we all agree on
Yeah,
that.
we do all agree.
We
We do all agree.
Well, there was a place in El Paso, it's called Aliviane, and it was done by a bunch of people that were concerned about not only the homeless people, but the ones that had addictions or mental health problems. And they were allowed to stay there, and then they were allowed to go to class and help them to re-enter society, but help them with medication, a place to stay, food, whatever. But they were allowed to stay there only if they participated in some of the programs that they were teaching them.
And I think
to
all
get
of those
productive.
things need to be requirements. It shouldn't be a choice. If I'm giving you a place to stay, you are required to do X, Y, and Z. And if you don't do it, then I can't help you.
So one of the things that I've noticed, or one of the things when I was talking about resources, the biggest one for me is addiction, because a lot of people they cope with mental health, with whatever they're struggling with through addiction. And so one of the things that I wanted to talk about in terms of resources was what we have available for addiction. I mean, I think we need somebody that is an addiction specialist on this board because that's a major resource. And for me, that is the one that I think of the most when I think about not having the resources available for addiction.
And I agree
so,
with that.
We have a ton of them.
And that's what I was gonna ask you about, cause what I was said earlier, maybe maybe I'm wrong about the resources available, and that's why we need to streamline it. So another thing I wanted to talk about is secular addiction help, because I know there's a lot of people that if they are not religious, then they are not comfortable going to, you know, and like I know we have AA meetings in NA. I've been to them for quite a while, and because it's so focused on a higher power and stuff, it makes it difficult for those that can't connect with that to find a home, to find somewhere, and it can be very discouraging. And so when we're talking about resources, I just want to make sure that we're really focused on addiction help, because when somebody's in, they're going through addiction, there'll be a moment, a period, where they're like, okay, I'm done with this, I'm tired of this. And if there's no help, like, obviously available, then the moment passes and they fall back into let's have it stuff.
And I do that type of work now. I
Yeah.
work with addicted people and alcoholics and teach them the word and try to help them to get back into society. And you're right, a lot of them will not go to the churches because they'll be judged or they'll be whatever. They're afraid of being judged. But you're right, we do need more of that.
So
I have a question for all of you seem to be really observant and you're out there every day. Are you aware of Renew Health?
Never heard of that.
They've got billboards everywhere. You see two of them on the way to Holland, and they've got them all over town.
Is that the one that's?
Renew Health rents office space at the counseling center, and I personally think it's pretty cool because they They have a location in Roswell, they have the location here, and it's, non-church related, and
And
they.
the guy that runs it was a former, I
Addict?
don't think that, yeah, he's a former, yeah.
Well,
exactly.
I find it really, interesting that they have now, they're using medically assisted treatment to get people out of addiction. And there are things available that I have seen through people that actually work. I've never, well, I am addicted to things like food and that stuff. But, and I understand the obsession with addictions. I don't do it very often.
I find
But-
it interesting that in a town that, is notoriously known for gossip, that good stuff doesn't get around.
Well,
You know,
exactly.
I can pass gas and somebody else will know what it
Yeah.
smells like before I do.
But hold
Listen
on,
to what
when
those
you-
folks do.
I can answer that for you. Like, these we're looking at, it's psychologically for all of us in the room. Let's face it, we are so focused on what we have to do because we have to be. So I'm focused on the well in our food pantry and helping the homeless and the members we have that are homeless or extremely low income.
Yes.
You're focused on Runner's Refuge and what you're doing. We are so focused, it's kind of one of those things until we know about it or until we personally have some investment in it. It's like buying that new car and it's like, oh, nobody has this new car. And then all of a sudden you drive a lot and you're like, there's 20 of them. What happened?
Decision, right?
Because you made an
Yeah.
investment into it.
Yeah.
Now you see them.
We
And
have
hopefully,
here
that's
in
what I
town-
was gonna say, hopefully now that we all know we're having this conversation, and some of these walls are falling down, you know, we can, like I
Well-
said, I deal with everybody in town, I don't care.
Is
I
there
talk
anybody
to
you don't
everybody, and I'm getting out more so now because I used to be associate pastor over at Mountain View, and I stepped down from that position in December. So now I'm gonna be able to go to different churches and say, hey, this is what we do, and this is how we do it, and this is why we do it, and can you help us? And if they say yes, we can send a volunteer team over there, and we'll cook dinner on Friday. Hallelujah, I don't have to be here on Friday. And it'll free me up to do more stuff,
Right.
you know? But until we get to that point, which I think is happening right now, we're gonna be like Wendy as a newcomer going, where's the resources? Because people don't know, and if we
Well,
don't
and
know,
there's
you
a
don't
How
know.
do we purport to get people to know?
But if we can,
What do you do?
we need that lead person that you're talking
But
about.
let me just, can I say one thing real, I wanna
Absolutely.
talk just about the city and everything. My issue, and since I've moved to Alamogordo, my wife's family has been here for, I don't know, hundreds of years. They drug me here kicking and screaming, okay? But that's all I ever hear is the city needs to provide a shelter. And I've heard that since I've moved here. I don't think that's true. No offense. I think if we get to a shelter, that's great and that should be an end goal. And it may take us 5 years. It may take us a long amount of time. But I think we're asking the wrong question and we should be approaching our city, especially our mayor, and asking, okay, this is a goal. How can the city partner? Because I live here, I know all the problems we got. I would like the potholes in front of my house to not be there anymore. You know, I would like the water to run consistently. I know all those things are there.
We're working on it, I promise.
Right, so, but how do we get the city then just to ask that question? How can you partner with everything you have to deal with? And if that is, well, we can partner in this way, and if it's small
Okay,
and
I'll be
to
right
others
back.
may seem insignificant, I think
Okay,
that's
tell
huge.
you what, I'm gonna be a few
If
minutes.
they go,
Sorry, I'll
we
play
can
that.
do this right now, we can't do anything else, we can't maintain a shelter, we can't build the shelter for you, we can't take that on,
Sustain it,
we can't
right.
sustain it. But what we can do is we can allow you space here, or we have some volunteers, or we have some people in our departments that can help you with this on this. Whatever small increment we can get, that's partnership. And I think that's what we start dealing with,
We
rather than
have to
asking
model
the city to
the
take
I
on
have
everything.
to apologize because I have to leave, but coincidentally enough, I forgot about it, and it is a meeting about low income housing. So I gotta go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a model we can mirror. Back in 1983, when we started thinking about a center of protected environment.
That's when I was born.
Well, a first grant was received by Judy Pingle and her Methodist Church. But when we started looking at getting capital outlay to build the shelter, we needed multi-millions. After we got it built, little red hen here, after we got it built, after we got it going, the city bought it from us.
Right.
So now we lease the building from the city. And as a consequence, they take care of maintenance.
Okay.
And they also inject a little bit of funding every now and then.
Right.
But I think those kinds of public-private partnerships are important but we also have to deal with the anti-donation clause.
Right.
The city just can't give us a building. But there's some things that are happening that we need to be aware of right now. There's a bill in the legislature to rent control in New Mexico. What's happening is, data shows that people come in from California, they buy homes, they flip them if they're too expensive. I'm appalled by the prices of rentals here. And maybe it isn't the $600 a month, but it's the $600 upfront, the $600 rent, the $600 last month as well. So it's $2,000 to get into a place. I couldn't do that. How many people could? Anyway, support the legislative process right now. Senator Lopez and Cedillo Lopez are doing the rent control bill, and I think it's really important that we get something, and we can do it in Alamogordo, and I'll talk to Susan about it, or the mayor about it later. We have a housing plan in place, and a lot of things we can't do unless we have that in place, and they've got that in place, so we can do it. 100% Ontario is doing a summit in February to go over all of these issues. We're being redundant once again. That if we can show up at the summit with ideas in place and be ready to pop into one of the sectors.
Do you
as
have a date on
volunteer.
that?
Yeah, it's up on the website.
You know,
It's on the
I'll check
website.
it.
yeah, it's on the website.
Can you tell me what time your meetings were on the second Tuesday at the counseling?
The
center?
second
3 o'clock.
Tuesday of the housing, they're at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock, thank you.
And I do them, like I said, I do them in person and this via Zoom. And anybody's welcome to reserve our conference room. And use our Zoom subscription, and we got an hour to.
So I just wanna state on the whole resource thing, not that we're looking for another job, but the counseling center's too far.
Yes,
Right.
it is. It's
I
fun.
agree.
So if we get them bus there, they're lolly-dolling, and the next thing we hear, we had to walk home. So we were thinking about having one here, right in the heart of
This is the
everything.
perfect location.
But we're still far from, Walker.
Yes.
We
Right.
still serve Walker,
Yes.
we still serve Bulls Acres. We have 50 plates that we send out and, deliver to the doors of people who can't come out, and we also have, we go and feed on our street people, you know? So it's tasky, but we know the numbers, we know where they're at. And if they already know, they can come take a shower here and do their laundry and get a hot meal. We could use Wilderness Refuge as the hub.
And we are a church, but you can ask anybody in this room or out there on the streets how many times I've pulled out my Bible and says, Leonard, unless you receive Jesus, I'm not gonna give you a meal. It doesn't happen. We receive everybody that
Crazy
wants to
story
go.
about that, but not that one.
Except you're usually out there doing stuff on the street, so your door's not open, that's the problem.
Well,
No, your physical
yeah,
door. No,
it
I'm
is-
just
it is-
saying, this is a compliment.
We
I
Yeah,
do
see,
have,
you
we
are
do
people,
have
yeah.
hours that we have to make
no, we
appointments
need more
because we
people.
can't be
Yeah,
here
true.
24/7,
Exactly,
but,
exactly.
and we are trying to train people that, okay, so you're gonna be here at 9 o'clock, be here at 9 o'clock, so I know Nadia has that same issue that time is a fleeting thing in their minds.
Yeah.
But we still need to back up, like she said, we're having a lot of conversations that are like, oh, well, we're way ahead, we're 2 years ahead, we need to back up and just
Right now.
have that
Send
person
it
that
right
we can
now.
go to, that we can send to the counseling center or to
Well, I mean,
Grace
honestly-
Church or to the state of New Mexico or whoever the powers that be, that we can send somebody as a representative with a well thought out idea, like a business plan, that says, hey, this is what we're proposing, how can you help us in this? Because if we're just saying, you know what, we're gonna end homelessness, what can you do for us? And you're like, well, what do you need?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, I have a list.
It's a coalition
Isn't
point
that
person.
cool? I have a
Well, I
list.
mean, but that
Can you
becomes
help
the
with
point.
anything on this
If
list?
we can start,
You know?
if we can start a board that is a nonprofit that involves board members from our organizations, it allows us to know what our organizations are already providing,
Yes.
create a better plan of what we need to do, and you're like, well, I wanna have a better resource center. We kinda already got that. Okay, well, then we don't need a better resource center.
Yeah.
Well, now that we're a
So
board
now you
working
can take
together.
their resources